Imagine settling into a hotel room after a long flight, excited about finally seeing the face of a dear friend you met online, not knowing that behind that face lies evil and that evil will lead to your death.
This is the heartbreaking story of how Cynthia was lured through Facebook to Lagos State, where she was robbed, beaten, raped and strangled to death. On the day of the incident, Cynthia traveled from Nasarawa State through Abuja Airport to land at Muritala Mohammed Airport in Lagos State. This flight was sponsored by the two men that she was going to meet in Lagos State, known as Nwabufo and Olisa Eloka. They also were responsible for her transportation from the airport to the hotel room that they booked for her as well. On getting to the hotel room, they entertained her, gave her a drink known as Ribena. But then, unknown to her, the drink was already drugged with a sedative known as Rohypnol. So they had decided to wait for the Rohypnol to start taking effect before they start the attack on her. But then, when it seemed like she was not going to sleep, they just decided to begin the attack on her. They first bound her hands and her feet and then gagged her mouth so that she would not be able to scream. They then proceeded to ask her for money. But then the only money that she had was a little amount of money that she planned to use to do business with them. She didn't even have an ATM card. This infuriated them. They then beat her some more, stole her phone and her jewelries, took her passport and a driver's license, and then proceeded to rape her throughout the night. By next morning, they ended up strangling her to death. They then left the room and the hotel and called the receptionist to go and remove, in their own words, that idiot from the room. Now the receptionist was upset because they had not yet paid for the room that they used, so she quickly rushed upstairs to go and try and get the money from the lady that had accompanied the both of them the previous day into the room. On getting to the door of the room, she knocked, nobody answered, so she used the master key to gain access into the room. On opening the room, she was greeted with a gruesome, terrible sight, frightening sight of Cynthia on the bed, bound on her hands and her feet and gagged in her mouth. She then raised an alarm, called the manager, and the manager then called the police. The policemen, on getting there, couldn't identify the dead body because there was no form of identification on her, and her name was not the name used to secure the room. So they didn't know who to call, what name to use when making an announcement in the news. They didn't know how to identify her, so they took her body to the morgue. But then, in catching the perpetrator of this crime, they thankfully had the CCTV camera to help them to catch the perpetrator of this crime, and they began the search for Nwabufo and Olisa Eloka. Now, few days had passed without Cynthia's family hearing from her, and they had gotten so worried. They had kept on calling her number, but nobody was speaking. And so her mother, who had tried her number for the past 7 days, decided to try her number again on this very day, and thankfully a man picked up Cynthia's phone. When she asked to speak to Cynthia, the man said that Cynthia was too tired, too sick to come to the phone. Now her mother started begging them, please let me speak to Cynthia. After a while, the man then said, okay, Cynthia is here with me, but I'm not going to allow you to speak to her until you pay the ransom of 20 million naira because she has been kidnapped, and if you do not pay the money, you will never ever see her again. Now, to Cynthia's mother, that seemed fishy because there is no kidnapper on earth that would not want to quickly speak to the family members of whoever they kidnap in order to get money as soon as possible, and it had been 7 days. Now, when this man that is supposed to be a kidnapper had finally established contact with the family members of the so-called kidnapped person, Cynthia, the first thing he's saying is that she is too sick to come to the phone. That is not the behavior of a kidnapper. A kidnapper will be very willing, very eager to tell you the money they want and where to drop the money so that they can release whoever they had kidnapped. So they did not trust whoever was speaking. They decided to trace Cynthia's phone to wherever she was, and they found that the phone was at First Town. So they traveled to the First Town with the picture of Cynthia and went straight to the police station to file a missing persons report. Now remember, this case was still very fresh, so when the family members of Cynthia came with a photo of Cynthia to file a missing persons report, the policemen suspected that this person must have been the person that was killed a few days ago and that was lying in the morgue. So they decided to carry the family members of Cynthia to the morgue for identification of the dead body that they had gotten from the hotel in Westack town a few days earlier. And sadly, the family members of Cynthia realized that was the dead body of Cynthia and that their baby girl was gone. This was very heart-wrenching. It was so painful and so terrible to realize that Cynthia was never going to come back again to them. The family members of Cynthia had told the policemen that Cynthia had met Umabufo and Olisa Eloka about 4 months ago on Facebook, and they became platonic friends, nothing romantic. Cynthia had a boutique at Kefi in Nasarawa State, which she runs by getting goods sometimes from family members in the US and sometimes from vendors in Lagos State. So when she announced that she was coming to Lagos to buy some products in Lagos State to sell to her customers in Nasarawa State, Umabufo and Olisa had expressed that they were in the same kind of business. They do wholesales. So they had told Cynthia that if she decides to do business with them by buying their products, they will take care of her flight fee from Nasarawa State to Lagos State, and they take care of her transportation and her accommodation at the hotel in Westack town. To which Cynthia agreed. She was happy about it, and that was how she found herself in that terrible situation at the hotel in Westack town. Now, like I told you earlier, the hotel has CCTV camera and they were able to identify this woman before and Olisa. And thank God they finally arrested them. When they were arrested, they confessed to everything. They even showed these policemen evidence of pictures of Cynthia that they are taking in their own personal laptops. Yes, they are taking Cynthia's pictures in different type of positioning, and they were all stored up in their own laptops. That's very incriminating. But then on the day of the trial, they both recounted their statements. They said that they made that confession under duress. But then they couldn't explain away why the pictures of the dead body of Cynthia was on their own personal laptops. Umabufo also went ahead to dismiss the stories told by Cynthia's family that they met on Facebook. He said that story was a lie. He said that Cynthia was actually his fiancée, that he had met Cynthia the previous year in Lagos when she came to the shopping mall to ask for direction on how she can buy some products for her boutique in Nasarawa State. After their meeting, they had exchanged phone number and they kept on talking to each other every day, every week and every month, and then they started dating and finally got engaged. According to Umabufo, on the day of Cynthia's murder, Cynthia had traveled from Nasarawa State to visit him in Lagos State in order for them to discuss how she was going to introduce him, a new fiancé, to her family members. But then when he was asked several important questions like, what date was Cynthia's birthday? What is her middle name? Where exactly does she live? Things that someone who is close to anybody would know about that individual. He wasn't able to answer any of them. He also wasn't able to give an accurate account of how come she ended up dying on that day, since, according to him, she had come to visit him. At the end of the trial, Umabufo and Olisa were found guilty and they were both sentenced to death. This is a very terrible, sad story and a sad way for any parent or any loved one to lose someone to the cold graves of death. Yes, and I am just hoping that our family members and our loved ones kind of find a way to bear this loss. She was only 24 years old. This brings us to the end of this case. Do not forget to like it and also share with people around you so that they will be aware of the dark side of the internet. It's not just Facebook. I know people have met their deaths through meeting people from Instagram and Snapchat and TikTok and Twitter. So we all have to be careful on the net. Thank you very much for watching. Like I said earlier, if this is content that you like, please consider clicking on that subscribe button and then turning on the notification for more videos from me. Thank you for watching and I will see you in the next video. Bye.